Hi, this is Ruth with Creating Fun Lives, and I want to talk today about Hashimoto's disease. It is the autoimmune issue of a slow thyroid or hypothyroidism. For me, this started in my 20s. There may have been symptoms before that, but it really became evident in my mid to late 20s. So, things that I had struggled with were common symptoms. I didn't like to be cold. As a matter of fact, I could be laying out in 80-degree weather and shivering. I also had the problem of constipation, real dry skin, and when it really got into a bad situation is when I could barely stay awake for 8 hours for a full work day. And that's when I knew I'd gone too far without getting help. And I went to doctors, and I was in this normal range on my thyroid tests, but I knew it wasn't normal. I'd gained 50 pounds in under 6 months, which is a lot of weight to carry around. In fact, I would tell my doctor, I can feel my rib cage expanding. And he said, nobody can feel that. I'm like, I just gained 50 pounds in under 6 months. It's ridiculous. I can't afford new wardrobes like this. I need some help. And since they wouldn't help me, I had a friend go yell at a doctor and say, hey, you need to give her some medicine. And they gave me the lowest dose, which was like a 0.25 of Synthroid or levothyroxine. And I lost 20 pounds the first month doing nothing different. But when I had started gaining that weight, I was jogging every day. I was starving myself. There wasn't anything I could do to change that momentum, and I was out there just jogging. There's no fat joggers, there's no fat joggers. I just kept on going and going. And I was living in Pittsburgh at the time, and I was taking the bus to work to downtown. And when I had to take that bus home, I was so scared I was going to fall, nod off, and miss my bus stop, and then be riding for hours and trying to find my way back home and be even more tired. I had the extreme fatigue. I wanted to get into like a bathroom stall and see if I could just nap for 15 minutes where nobody would see me. I wouldn't get fired. It was becoming such an issue that, I worried about even holding down a job. So I had hair loss. I had the um, irregular periods, and they'd be real heavy and painful. And I would also have like brain fog. So when it came tax time, stuff that was easy for me to do, I suddenly was having a hard time getting to it for months. And you get a couple of months to do your taxes, and that doesn't seem like a big deal to be procrastinating. But I actually was too brain fogged to think about it. I'm not that big of a procrastinator. I get my stuff done on time. And now it was a real chore to do anything past my work day and just eat a meal and sleep on the couch till bedtime, go to bed, and get up and try to do it all again. So these were extreme conditions to have in my 20s. This should be the prime of my life, and I'm up and able to go. So I had started that 0.25 dose and was doing fairly well on it. But as time goes by, you need to increase those meds, and the body continues to kind of go in decline. It's rare that somebody has to decrease their meds over time. They typically have to increase them over time. So my body wasn't healing. It just was slowing down and stopping symptoms. So when I would get real tired again, I'd ask the doctor for another refill. And they weren't seeing me on the scale for the thyroid. So they weren't increasing my medicines to help me. So this was, beg and plead or sneak, call in a prescription before the 30 days was up, and split my pills in half. Yeah, just a rigmarole through the healthcare system instead of me telling my doctor and having a good relationship. Since I didn't have a doctor that I found that had this relationship that I could talk over symptoms and how I really felt and address that, I ended up going to a gym, and they were ordering their medicines from Mexico. I said, well, you don't have to fight with the doctor. You can just order up your medicines. We've been there. So I went ahead and started doing that. And I was doing something very risky, and that was self medicating. I don't highly recommend it, but I definitely wasn't going to lose my job, and I wasn't ready to lay down and die yet. So this was my way to just fight through my life and barely survive. So as I got too tired, I knew I would up my dose a very small amount. And if I had problems sleeping, or agitation, irritation, then I knew I would need to tailor back. So I never had to tailor back. I always played on the safe side of that. So when you get onto a hyperthyroid state, if you take too much medicine, you can end up with heart attacks, failure, and other health complications. And I was too scared to go that route too. So I was being very careful monitoring how I felt versus what I really needed in my body. So I did not go on to lose a whole lot more of that weight. It would be a while before I just began to tone up my body tremendously. So I was at a higher weight, but then I was fit again. And that made me feel good. So I was, about 40 pounds heavier than when I graduated high school. So I went from like 142, I think I was for several years. And then I was closer to like 175, 180 range. In that range, I was able to get into a bikini. I was actually exercising so much so that my body was toned and tight at a higher weight, which was great. I was happy to be able to at least maintain some level of health for myself. There's a lot of trips to the gym, a lot of walking, a lot of exercising. And during that time, I proceeded to have a normal life and have a baby. And once again, here I am in the hospital. My body is retaining all kinds of water. I'm having health issues because I'm under doctor's care at this point. Then they send me over to cardiologists and others who check me over. That's when I actually get the diagnosis for Hashimoto's. So almost a decade later, after self-medicating, they said, whatever you're doing, continue to do. You're doing perfect. And they helped me monitor my numbers and make sure I stayed within a safe range, which was great. I loved having doctors that worked with me. This was, the joy of my life to bring my first baby into the world. So as I was, continuing my health journey, I came across somebody with some qigong or qigong. I didn't know what it was. I had never heard of it before, and I contacted her. She was in um, the north side of town, and I just asked her, I said, I seem to be having a problem with salt and retaining water, and I've had a slow thyroid over the years, and it seems like I've kind of got it under control, but I was wondering if there was something more you could offer. And she said, well, let's start with a colon cleanse and maybe set up an appointment to come see me in another week or two. We'll go over some of the issues that you're having. So I called my sister and I said, have you ever heard of, this Qigong? And she said, no. I said, does it sound too hokey? She said, yeah. So I never replied to the woman or set up an interview. But it was a few weeks later, I was sitting in front of the TV, baby in bed, had my laptop on my um, recliner, and was watching uh, the History Channel. First, it's Shark Week for a full week, and then after that, it was Armageddon Week. On Armageddon Week, they had 5 days of Nostradamus, and then they talked about this guy Edgar Casey, and I thought, wow, these guys and their predictions, how weird. And then the interesting thing about Edgar Casey came on that he did over 14,000 readings, most of those on health and wellness, with outstanding results. So I was interested. So here I am with my laptop on my desk and I Google search, and lo and behold, there are 8 ingredients that he recommends, 8 herbs. And I thought, wow, that looks very similar to something I just saw in that email from that other lady. So I look up her email and compare the ingredients side by side from my email and what this Edgar Casey guy had recommended. And sure enough, same exact 8 ingredients. So there I was. I'm like, writing's on the wall. I'm going to go ahead and order it. So I ordered this tea and I began to drink it and I got a headache. And after 3 days of this excruciating headache right here in the frontal lobe, I told my sister, I said, look, I know that this is the um, hormones for the thyroid working overtime in my body. So I'm either going to continue the tea and quit my medicine, or I'm going to have to drop the tea and go back to my medicine. And the reason I knew that headache is because I'd switched at some point from the regular synthetic medicines from the doctor to the nature throid. And I think they use the natural pig hormone to help adjust the thyroid. So as I was familiar with that headache, I realized this is the thyroid working over time. So one of these has to be out of the diet. I said, look, I'd really like to try the tea. It came highly recommended by this, by 2 people now for slow thyroid. So I went on that tea and never went back to my medicine. I still have that medicine from, is that like 15 years ago now, maybe a little more, and I don't ever have to use it again. One of the ingredients in that tea was kelp. Kelp has natural iodine for the body. So what I ended up doing was treating my body with something natural instead of, synthetic or replacement for my own thyroid. And within time, my symptoms didn't just stop, they began to reverse. It would be a whole year on that tea before I saw these little shoots on the top of my head, and I thought, oh, great, it was falling out. And now I have all this little breakage. And I was looking in the mirror going, wait a minute, that isn't hair breaking off. I think that's new hair growth. And I could no longer see the part in my hair where it had gotten a little thin and you could see my scalp. So, what was happening is my hair began to regrow. And when I talk about all the symptoms of my thyroid, I had close to 30 symptoms of slow thyroid from my 20s that were now being addressed solely by a tea. And that tea I went on to use for several years until my next baby was born. And that tea drove my estrogen a little too high, and I had some other complications. So I do not recommend Essiac tea for pregnant ladies because, again, this is balancing the hormones. But I did continue to use the kelp, and to this day, my whole family uses kelp. The kelp from a thyroid um, tea wasn't a thyroid tea, it's actually a cancer tea, but it addressed all the health issues and cleaned out the liver. It removes fluoride from the body, it removes mercury, heavy metals. It does so many wonderful things for the body. And I didn't know it. I was just taking it because it was recommended as a good colon cleanse and then also recommended by Edgar Casey for the sole purpose of helping a slow thyroid. So there I'd started my true health journey. And I had people along the way that had helped me before that, but now I had, had a strong soul desire to have something natural and for the body to be healed. And there it came. And I'm still living very healthy. I made sure that my whole family gets a little kelp in their diet. You can order it up in pill form. I was getting it from the Asian store a lot cheaper than the pills. The pills are not expensive, but I would just sprinkle a little bit on my salad and through maybe spaghetti sauces or other things that my family was eating. And in doing so, that helps remove the heavy metals from their body, the fluorides that they're getting, and also any mercury from fish and things like that, so that they can be sharp with clarity and also have a healthy liver. So I am real pleased with how that has turned out in my life, and I thought I would share that here. I'll put the links in the description so that you also can, either try the tea or at least try the kelp. I believe everybody should have some iodine in their diet, save for those who are in a hyperthyroid state already, because at that point you don't want to overwork your thyroid and go into a deeper state of hyperthyroid and run the body too hard. Again, that can lead to heart attacks and other complications regarding faster thyroid. So, one of the great things about having, health is knowing the culmination of things that brings your body into health. It's great to add the kelp. But in addition to that, I had been on a super, super healthy diet. So I was eating just like veggies at work. Matter of fact, I had people coming up to me at work and saying, look, I'm eating veggies now too. So I thought, well, that's weird. I really wasn't making it a thing. It was just what I was eating. I wasn't preaching it to anybody else. I didn't say anything. If somebody needed to borrow some ranch from the refrigerator in the, uh, you know, in the common area, I didn't mind. It was just a thing that I did, but it ended up influencing other people as they saw that, health and wellness comes from, giving the body things that it needs. For instance, when you take wheat and some of these pastas and things out of the diet, well, the first thing that many people notice is their skin clears up. Your skin is an organ and it pushes out any poisons or toxins. So when you were talking about having a healthy diet, you take out things that clog up the system, your skin begins to glow and shine. And just, I had extremely sore I don't know if they were pimples or nearly boils, but they were on my face for years. I still have scarring from it. I always wear layer makeup to kind of just look normal. And I was born a natural redhead, so I got lots of freckles anyhow that I kind of try to blend in and not look like a wild animal. So as I have found that, those healthier things, the fruits and vegetables, um, really did my body well. When I was going during that first pregnancy to the doctor to have my heart checked, she said, people say they're on healthy diets, but I've never seen anything quite like this before. And that's because I was eating raw vegetables every day for lunch, and then I'd come home and make cooked vegetables for dinner. So it'd be only the occasional um, fun things I'd have at my sister's house when I would stop by and visit, maybe snack on a couple chips or something here or there. But for the most part, I was eating as healthy as I could because it was so important to me to be able to be awake and be healthy to raise my children. And it's hard to take care of somebody else until you've taken care of yourself. And sleeping around the clock wasn't for me. And having, that excess water retention, I still take a water pill, but I take a very small dose, half of the pill. And I found that wakame seaweed also helps with water retention. So if I eat a lot of celery and wakame seaweed, I really don't need to take the water pill. But as far as being a mom and being on the go, I eat generally still a healthy diet. There's no wheat in my diet. And when it comes to foods like rice, I take the time to soak it overnight or for a full day um, to reduce the phytic acid. And then after I've soaked it, I rinse it and then cook it and rinse it again. So if you're trying to serve a hot sauce over rice, that's perfect. Your rice is already cooled and your hot sauce brings it back, or your, warm sauce brings your rice to a comfortable temperature. Otherwise, you can throw it back in the boiler and get it back up to temperature after you've rinsed it considerably. So the thing with rice is it comes over the border. There's nothing that comes into the border that is not soaked in preservatives. So you want to get some of that preservative off. And again, that phytic acid grabs hold of your minerals in your body and drags them out of your system. So you want to reduce that phytic acid. On a side note, you can soak wheat for a very long time, and you're not going to reduce that phytic acid enough to make a difference. I'm not sure if wheat was ever made for human consumption, but it seems to be through our entire grocery store. Unless you're buying single ingredient foods like a cucumber or, you know, a carrot, those other items that are in boxes all seem to have wheat in them. Even the soy sauce has wheat. So sometimes wheat will still slip into my diet, but for the most part, I have that all removed and my skin does better for it, my body does better for it, and health and wellness doesn't have to be some big mystery. The idea to have your real true health and wellness is going to be having your body in that alkaline state. Alkaline means your foods that are going to bring you out of an inflammation. So a lot of heavy meats and things can be inflammatory as well as a lot of your boxed products. So think about that when you're at the grocery store next time. How can I increase my vegetables and decrease my pastas and even the gluten-free foods, even though they seem like they might fall under the healthy department, you'd be better off to grab your own rice and soak it and work that into a healthy vegetables over rice meal as opposed to having the gluten-free breads. We do still have gluten-free bread in our home. It's just not one of my go-tos. It's a great food for kids to make a sandwich that are on the go. But for the most part, I try to get them salads every day and lots of beautiful fruits and vegetables for them to snack on. I try to keep a veggie tray going. I figured veggie trays are just for parties until that's my main food. So why shouldn't every day look fun? So making a nice assortment of broccoli, celery, maybe peppers. I sometimes put some fun cheeses on there, maybe some Colby Jack or mozzarella. Your choice. Pick things that you love, put them on your veggie tray, eat your celeries, your broccolis, your carrots, and, you know, feel that health in your body. Be grateful for, those things still being available to us in our grocery stores as, they've marketed to have people need medicines. And so a lot of your fruity pebbles and fun things marketed straight to kids, really, they're seeing that the kids are having allergic reactions to a lot of the dyes and some of the things that are in them. So if you have an opportunity to put together your own yogurt and sweeten it with your honey or maybe a little maple syrup or something else fun, you could take, a yogurt and do layers of strawberry bananas and whipped cream or something fun. And when you present that to kids, lots of times they're very excited to, devour the healthier foods. It's just what's presented to them. Helps turn off the TV. There's a lot of advertising on there that kids don't need. They don't need to miss out on anything. You just offer them the most beautiful things and they will love them and enjoy them just as much. So when I talk about healthy eating, a lot of times it is not just low starch, but low sugar. And again, the natural sugars are what I'm kind of aiming for. I notice huge difference for my own kids. They are radiant and alive and healthy, and I don't expect for their bodies to be breaking down like mine. They'll never have to break down. They won't be without the actual nutrients that they need, like kelp and, some of these healthier things that are in our vegetables versus our, cereals and boxed things. So when you send your children off into the world, they'll have these habits already established. They'll know what to go and grocery shop for. And if you're lucky, maybe they'll even learn how to grow some of their own food too. We're still learning that in our house though. Anyhow, again, links in the descriptions if you have any comments or questions. I'd love to talk about all the things that have to do with Hashimoto, slow thyroid, and some of the struggles and how we overcome those. And I look forward to next time. Have a great night.